are standing in front of what will soon become history. Hartford's box populations have been in rapid decline since the early 2000s, and if you take a closer look, you might ask yourself, what are these boxes? What is the stuff that they hold? Is that stuff, perhaps, history? Hello, my name is Richard Armstead, and I will be your narrator for the self-guided audio walking tour portion of the American Museum of the Free Publication Distribution Box. For the next 45 or so minutes, you will take a tour through the city formerly known as New England's Rising Star, Hartford, Connecticut, and learn more than you ever thought you would about these broken, decrepit boxes. But first, a word from our museum's founder, Bert Crinklethorne.
Some might see the objects in front of you as giant pieces of garbage. I was one of them, until I took ayahuasca. It made me realize that the things we take for granted could teach us valuable lessons on the lasting nature of impermanence. And then I puked a whole bunch.
These boxes are so deeply intertwined with the fabric of the American city that they are effectively hidden in plain sight. You've looked at them a million times. You might have taken a paper from them. You might have even peed on them. Yet you've gotten so used to them being on the sidewalk that you rarely acknowledge their existence. They're just kind of there, a ubiquitous part of the tableau that is downtown. So let's take a moment to really notice them. Use all of your senses. See them, hear them, touch them, smell them. Actually, don't smell them, and definitely don't taste them. The only thing you need to do is understand them. Consider what they can tell us about society, about culture, about tetanus. When you open one of these boxes, you open up a world of possibilities. You open your mind to appreciating the beauty in the junk that surrounds us. And yeah, maybe you get a bacterial infection. On this tour, you will be educated, entertained, and maybe a little confused. And you will hear from a variety of experts in their fields, like noted conservationist Sir David Attenborough.
These boxes are quickly going extinct. They once played a crucial part in the ecosystem of the urban jungle, which is different from the real jungle, which was cut down to print these papers.
In fact, you can trace the origin of these boxes back to prehistoric times, when the remains of ancient organisms were trapped under sedimentary rock. Thousands of years later, that substance was extracted and synthesized into a material called plastic. These boxes were here before us, and they will be here after us, because they will never decompose. Our mission is to keep these priceless pieces of junk on the streets and away from the great Pacific garbage patch, so they can inspire the next generation of great minds, just like they inspired Professor Stephen Hawking.
The best way to visualize a wormhole is to think about the boxes on the sidewalk near bus stops. Everyone tells me to shut up about them. Honestly, they are so fascinating. None of my work on theoretical physics would have gotten anywhere without them.
As a real, accredited museum, we seek to preserve these relics of the past that are somehow still here years after the companies that use them went out of business, years after some of their doors fell off, years after anyone used a phone book. Some might say that they have no purpose at all whatsoever, that they are distributing nothing. But we would argue that they are distributing knowledge. Either way, prepare yourself to take a journey with us, to have your mind blown, and to start thinking outside the box.
Take a right and proceed down Main Street for 2 blocks. Then take a right onto Central Row. Stop number 2 will be at the bus stop across the street from the old State House. Do not accidentally get on the bus.
Imagine it's the year 1923. A trolley whizzes by, excitement is in the air, and there's news from all around the globe.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
Well, this ain't that. So let's imagine it's 2003 and you're sitting here waiting for the bus. There's no excitement in the air. Read all about it? The Iraq War? No, thank you. You want something light to distract from your dark thoughts. You want something with no substance at all. Something free. You just worked a 14-hour shift at Burger King. You're not in the mood to pretend the American dream is still alive. Why pay for journalism when all you want is content? The rich and powerful can read their Wall Street journals. 'Cause the New York Times, they are a-changin'. And your brain, you need to numb it. 2003 was not a glamorous year. And the free publications were not glamorous papers. They were gritty. They were grimy. They were sometimes literally 100% ads for used cars. One thing's for sure, they weren't your granddaddy's newspapers. 'Cause they weren't newspapers. They contained no news. Yet you can't deny the groundbreaking journalism that appeared in the pages of Employment Guide, Jobs for You, Autos for You, Auto Market, Autos, Auto Shopper, and Auto Solutions. That's solutions with a Z.
If you asked me to name the most influential publications in American history, well, I would say the New York Herald, the Washington Post, and Renter's Directory. I think that's how George Washington found an apartment.
While they might not have had the prestige of the larger papers, they changed the world. Because of them, how many minimum wage employees were hired? How many landlords collected money for doing nothing? How many escorts were found in the back pages of the Hartford Advocate? I never said they changed the world for good, just that they changed it. History wasn't always pretty, and neither were the free papers.
Too often does history tell the stories of the rich and powerful and ignores the stories of the people that went to Burger King. Maybe if Doris Kearns Goodwin had to eat a Whopper at a bus stop, she'd understand that.
Who decides what history is history? Probably a bunch of snobs who can't see that the real history is made in the streets and that the books regular people read weren't bound in leather, but instead stapled.
To continue your tour, make your way back to Main Street and take a right, the opposite of the direction you came in. Stop number 3 is in front of City Steam Brewery. Resist the urge to go to Burger King. It's bad for you.
These days, we press a few buttons and things arrive right at our door. We don't think about how the things got there. We don't think about the people that delivered the things. Well, for a while, they were living large. From immigrants all the way to recently divorced dads, if you had a minivan, you could make a living wage dropping off this crap. They were independent contractors. Before that became just a loophole for companies to pay people less money. You could set your own hours and then party all night long. And the downtown Hartford route was the big leagues, where you could make the big bucks. Here are some of their stories.
Back then, I was stuffing 3-4 boxes at a time. And I was delivering these papers.
I was on a lot of drugs. The usual ones: booze, cocaine, ayahuasca. I remember this one time I was chasing this wolf-like demon, and I still finished my whole route.
It was hard being a woman in a man's world because, as you know, women couldn't legally drive in the 1980s. I had to carry the bundles over my head like I was carrying a bucket of water.
Yeah, people think that when you deliver papers, you're riding around on a bicycle. Oh, the only thing I was riding was your wife.
Nothing can get in my way. Potholes, red lights, pedestrians. When I saw school buses extend their little stop signs, I put the pedal to the metal. Sure, I killed a bunch of kids.
Those were different times. Things have changed a lot in the 46 years since 2003, since you're listening to this in the year 2049. 16 years since the takeover of the federal government by former Uber CEO Travis Kalanick. It's hard to imagine a time where you wouldn't be executed for missing your productivity quota, where you could pick up an employment guide and choose your job, where there was such a thing as a bathroom break. Yet, it's all true. People once felt like they had free will.
Make your way down Main Street and then take a left onto Church Street. Stop number 4 is at the corner of Church and Trumbull. I know you're on ayahuasca right now, but try your best to keep it together.
They might look outdated now, but once upon a time, these boxes were seen as style icons. They came in all colors, shapes, and sizes. They were modern, chic, unlike anything anyone had ever seen. They made a statement. You couldn't look away. They added style and flair to a palette too full of grays and browns. With their smooth plastic finishes, they made those metal rectangles look like squares. People would walk right up to them expecting the latest issue of Vogue. In an essay, filmmaker Susan Sontag once wrote,
Camp is a vision of the world in terms of style. It is the love of the exaggerated, the off, art that proposes itself seriously but cannot be taken altogether seriously because it is too much.
Take for instance this box in front of you. It's dressed like a house. House on the outside, house is on the inside. As a way to say, open me up. Take a look. See who I really am. Such a bold example of self-expression. To some, the way these boxes looked was controversial. They weren't ready for change. In a 2005 article, the Hartford Courant referred to these boxes as tacky and a mishmash of colors and shapes. A clear example of prejudice, since these were some of the first openly gay newspaper boxes.
I would argue that these boxes did more for gay rights than, say, Harvey Milk. They stood there, loud and proud, while the bigots at the Hartford Courant tried to tear them down.
Yet they brushed off the haters, telling everyone that it was okay to be who you are. Even in the face of adversity, you could still distribute used car ads, and you could look good doing it. Today, the fashion styles they inspired can be seen at the store, Old Navy.
Take a left onto Trumbull Street and continue a few hundred feet. Stop number 5 will be just before the corner of Trumbull and Pratt. Reminder, defacing any of our boxes will be considered a hate crime.
If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles.
That was a quote from Sun Tzu in his 5th century BC free publication, The Art of War. And in the eyes of the local government, it was war. Legislators considered the concept of free papers to be communism, but they couldn't stop their spread. The First Amendment couldn't be stopped by the Second Amendment.
Back then, you distributed these papers whatever way you could, like napalm, bodegas, Chinese restaurant lobbies, bus stops, whatever you had to do to get people to pick these up. You did. It's what separated the paper boys from the paper men.
The papers were everywhere, flying in every direction. Before you knew it, they brought in the boats for sale and the truck and equipment post. In the middle of the night, they would come in minivans and drop off more boxes. No one was spared in the war for attention. The worst part, they were targeting civilians.
When I think about the things I did in the Vietnamese supermarket on New Britain Avenue, those people just wanted to get bok choy.
At one point, it got so out of hand, the papers started coming down from Springfield, Massachusetts, crossing state lines, all in the name of used cars. And in one truly horrifying instance, a paper was published called Connecticut, Kids and Family. No one was safe. These conflicts will go down as the worst atrocities ever committed in the name of profit. Wait, I just remembered about the Iraq War. Never mind.
Continue down Trumbull Street until it intersects with Asylum Street. Take a right and cross the street. Stop number 6 will be at the bus stop near the corner. Apologies in advance if that triggered your PTSD.
We can learn a lot from looking at the scars of the past, and you can see how the boxes became just as broken as the system. They went from vessels for papers with words on them that became trash, to vessels for literal trash. You'd open them up and a mountain of garbage would fall out, and in the summer, at least 20% of them were full of bees.
On the box on the right, it looks like a bird pooped on the window? How is that even possible? Was somebody getting a paper and then it happened at that exact moment?
The streets became mosh pits. The boxes were battered and bruised. It was like every day was the purge. People were furious because the industry was full of people that sold out to the same exact media conglomerate. The alternative weeklies weren't alternative anymore. Why pick them up when you couldn't use them to pick up hookers? The rules no longer applied. When they broke, no one cared enough to fix them.
People were turning them into furniture. No seats left at the bus stop. Just push one over and use it as a seat. Want a little cubby for your garbage? In case you were saving it for later? Boom, no one's gonna stop you.
The rules no longer applied. On these streets, it was anarchy.
Let's say somebody wanted to make a walking tour, and there weren't enough boxes on the route I wanted the tour to be on. So you could just kidnap 2 of these from other places in the middle of the night, and then drive them to here, and then leave them here 9 months ago. And nobody would notice you did that. I'm not confirming or denying that I did that, but it's possible that somebody could do that.
The way these boxes fell into disrepair demonstrates how fine a line there is between mischief and mayhem. While you once could look into the plexiglass and see your reflection, now all you can see is the dark side of humanity, and you realize that just like the boxes and the system, you too are broken.
Go back towards the way you came on Asylum Street. Take a right onto Trumbull and then a left onto Pearl Street. Stop number 7 will be near the trash can on the corner on the right side of the street. Please do not move the box to a different part of town.
In the 1980s, a man by the name of Al Gore invented the internet, and it will go on to decay at the very fabric of the free publication industry, and also society. Publishers were oblivious to the increasingly obvious threat. Because they were old people, they were using abacuses while the rest of us were writing the word boobs upside down on a calculator. And by the time they figured that out, we had already found a much easier way to see boobs. Then when they were finally being distracted by boobs, their whole business strategy was replaced by the pop-up ad.
When I invented the internet, I created it specifically as a place to buy used cars. I thought it would make it easier to find one. But now I find myself agonizing over all my options, trying to find the most fuel efficient. And I realize it's just as hard as it ever was.
We have replaced the constant barrage of information with a more constant barrage of more information. And the deluge of useless crap has now eroded the public trust in media companies more than these eroding boxes ever could.
I understand that for the users on our platform, Facebook, it's difficult to differentiate between fact and fiction. Just the other day, I bought something that promised it would enlarge my penis by 4 inches. And it didn't work. I'm still at 1.
In the metaverse, you can't reach out and feel the ink on the page, and then have to wash your hands for 10 minutes because it's the cheapest ink possible. They're trying to make it so we no longer touch things like boobs. And if we ever get to only touch one boob, we won't be able to choose between right and left. It has eroded our ability to focus. Wait, what was I saying? I got distracted by all the boobs on my iPad.
Continue down Pearl Street and take a right onto Main Street. across the street from the Wadsworth Athenaeum. Do not get distracted looking at boobs on your phone.
In every museum's life, there comes a time for it to get really preachy. That time is now. It's time to stand up and take a stand against the museum industrial complex. Unlike these papers, freedom isn't free. And why what gets remembered and what doesn't be decided by the most pretentious people on Earth. They're gonna say our museum is a joke, that we're not important. Well, sorry for forgetting to be boring. Right this moment, we stand across from the Wadsworth Athenaeum, a supposed real museum. And honestly, a lot of that stuff isn't even good. Christ, how many paintings of Jesus do we need? Why is that garbage worth saving and this garbage isn't? 'Cause they say so.
I'm sick of walking around a stupid Athenaeum and pretending I get it. I don't even know what the word means. I'm not book smart. If only there was a museum on the street for people that are street smart.
The fat cats at the Smithsonian don't want you to hear this, but you can be art and not suck at the same time. And no matter what they say, we are art, because that's what we say we are. That's apparently the only criteria. To back us up, we conducted an exclusive interview with our good friend, President Barack Obama.
Can we make a museum that's kind of real, but also not real at the same time? Yes, we can. Can we pick fights with other museums? Yes, we can. Can anyone be Barack Obama if they simply say that they are? Yes, they can.
Thank you, real Barack Obama. So now you know what you have to do. Turn towards the Wadsworth and scream at the top of your lungs. Fake news. That'll show them.
Continue down Main Street, past Art Street. The final stop on our tour is at the corner of Main and Linden. Resist the urge to give the Wadsworth Athenaeum the finger.
This lone box has been standing in this spot, alone, for years, completely abandoned, subjected to all the elements, and no one ever threw it away, because no one noticed it was here, in an inexplicable, totally random place, facing away from the sidewalk, towards the street. And now, once you've learned about their continued existence, you will notice these remnants of a foregone era everywhere you go, lurking in the shadows of history. Will these boxes end up being like the papers they held? Disposable? Will future generations not even know the concept of a newspaper, let alone the free, worse ones? Well, that's up for you and the city of Hartford to decide. But I'll leave you with a word from our museum's real founder, Alex Traynor.
When I created this museum, my vision was to make people on the street say, "Wait, what?" Because that's what makes a city a city. And these days, it seems like they want to make everything condos and get rid of the public urination. But I'm not willing to forget the Hartford of the past. Yeah, it'll still suck, but it won't suck in the same way. And I won't be delivering papers here anymore. I've been doing this crappy job since I was 16. I've had trash fall on me, I've been stung by bees, and I've on and off felt like a failure because I was an adult paper boy. But I realize as I get older that we all have the ability to transform into something unexpected, like a museum curator. I realized that when I realized these boxes were abandoned and there was nobody left to tell me I couldn't do a hermit crab and take them over. So don't let anyone tell you that you can't have an only kind of funny idea and then blow it way out of proportion. And don't let these boxes go away, because they're a vital part of my heritage. Sure, you can push them in front of a bus if you want. People have. They aren't bolted down. But as John F. Kennedy once said, a man may die, nations may rise and fall, but an idea lives on. And then he got shot in the head but I still remember that quote. And love it or hate it, I'll still remember these boxes, years after they get shot in the metaphorical head. And guess what? You're gonna remember these boxes now, because I pretended to be a historian. An historian? Whatever.
The American Museum of the Free Publication Distribution Box was written and produced by Alex Traynor. Unless this is the kind of thing that would get him a fine, in that case he had nothing to do with it. Graphic design by Cannolo Tyromancer, narration by Richard Armstead, acting by Lauren Brickman, Nicole Conlan, John Sartori, Max Brand, Marshall Stratton, Dejen Tesfa, and Ryan Farrell. We are a no-profit organization and accept support in the form of the word of mouth. Tag at Hartford Box Museum on Insta. Please tell a friend and come back soon. Oh yeah, and you're welcome.